Yeah, so it's an interesting question because there's two perspectives. If you're a lead aggregator, and you're trying to sell information and using our product to capture and create the leads that you intend to sell, there's a lot more complexity, especially with what's kind of coming with the new year. For our first party lead gen clients, which really is the core of our business these days, not as complex, just understanding, what exactly needs to be positioned where on the capture process and in the flow, clear documentation that, stands, for, the long term in terms of confirming and verifying that, in fact, the right consent was provided at the time and the date, so there's different solutions that we integrate with pretty deeply. Shout out to the guys at Active Prospect for a tool that we're pretty integrated with, and see a lot of great results with some of the solutions they have. Just making sure that communicates its way back into the system and that the language is there. It's clear to the customer. You're not playing any games. Again, the one-to-one is a lot easier, I would say, for the first parties than some of the challenges that the third-party sellers are going to have to figure out. And we're working on some different things that are interesting for that as well. For some of our clients that are more in that arena. But the first party stuff, I think, is just understanding what the rules are and having a partner that can build it out for you and has experience with it. Or, if your internal team's doing it, get some oversight and make sure that they're not missing anything.
My definition is probably going to be very similar to Andrew's definition of like first party is going to be lender, let's say we'll use mutual, right? Mutual of OmahaMortgage.com. Consumer goes there, fills out the form. They're giving consent to mutual to call them. Then you have the lead aggregators, which would be the lending trees of the world, the bank of the world, where they're going to put your information in. They're going to send the information out to various partners, and then you're going to get the information that way. You're going to have a different consent model there. So we think about those lead aggregators, and historically, we've all filled out forms, and at the end it says, I consent to having lending tree and or their partners, and there's a hyperlink to about 1,000 different names on that page, and you're consenting to all those consumers customers contacting you as a consumer to try to sell you a mortgage. So in January of 2025, the new one-to-one consent rule goes into effect. The FCC is going to require a one-to-one consent for each individual seller to share your information and have them be able to contact you. So the hyperlink list is going away completely. You're going to have to either have only one party listed, or there's options for checkboxes, things of that nature. But you're going to have to identify them, and the consumer is going to have to pick those companies that they want to hear from, not just throw their information into the void and have the people come back and contact them. So that's going to be a pretty big change. I think you've pointed out one thing: the definition of seller in the TCPA rules are going to be that end company who's actually selling the product. So if you go on a mortgage lead aggregator site, the lead aggregator is actually not a seller because they're not really doing anything other than aggregating the leads. The sellers are going to be the end mortgage company. So that's a change, and we'll change some consents as well. And then the second key part of that, not just the one-to-one, is the logically and topically related, not probably problematic in the mortgage space as much as it is some other spaces. What that means is if you go through a mortgage flow, you should only be seeing mortgage lenders and consenting to those mortgage lenders, and not necessarily a pet insurance company or whatever, right? Because pet insurance is not logically or topically related to mortgage. So those are.
Yeah, so today, and historically, we've always, we've bought a lot of shared leads. So those aggregators that John was speaking about, that's really, I would say, the majority of our lead buy today. From the information that we've gotten from our providers, they have a solution that they think that will work for their model and share leads with this new consent. I don't know if that's public information now, or if they've shared that with everybody, but I think it's probably going to come here soon because most lenders want to have or want to be buying leads at minimum 60 days prior to the rule change, if not 90 days, to make sure that we have consented leads. But in regards to Mutual of Omaha branded leads, we also generate our own leads through paid search, socials, traffic to our website. We provide consent similar to what John was mentioning on our lead forms when customers fill out a Mutual of Omaha lead.
Yeah, so bad practices, I think one is, and I tell clients this a lot too, is that if you don't understand, if you're buying third-party leads, and if you don't understand where those leads are coming from, like from cradle to grave, like that is a problem because you are asking for problems. And if the answer is, oh, well, we buy them from company A. Okay, great. How's company A generating those leads? Oh, I don't know. Like that is a problem. I would say that's the number one bad practice that we see a lot. And it's the number one problem when you look at TCPA cases, that people don't know where these leads are coming from. They're calling them, and then it becomes this mess. The trigger leads, personally not a fan of trigger leads. I think there's a lot of issues there. I think we're going to see a lot of, I think over the next 18 months, you'll see some probably federal legislation on it. That the problem with trigger leads, and I think both Andrew and Chad would agree with me on this, is that the real problem is people call Chad and say, why did you give this information to all these other lenders when I came to you for a mortgage? And Chad's like, I didn't. TransUnion did, or Experian did. And it just creates so many problems for the originating lender, but that originating lender, right? And that
Yeah, I think when it comes to, one-to-one consent, like first party or exclusive lead gen sites are going to be probably the cleanest route to obtain one-to-one consent. For us in a perfect world, we would generate or buy exclusive only leads, but from a budgetary standpoint, it makes it pretty difficult. First party and exclusive leads are usually a little bit more expensive to generate, but hopefully the conversions are better. So as a manager of the lead buy or budget, what you want to do is just break down those costs and see what makes the most sense for your organization, depending on what type of transactions you do, whether it's refi, purchase, or credit profile, so on. I do think that there are a lot of the lead providers are going to have a solution that should help with some of these shared leads. But my real hopes are it's going to be what John was talking about, is that we're going to have higher intent leads. It's going to weed out some of the leads that may or may not have been wanting a mortgage call or a refi call. And when it comes to measuring quality of leads, I personally feel high customer intent is one of the strongest factors when evaluating quality of leads, which hopefully should generate more loans, better conversations, better quality of life for our salespeople, and so on.
Yeah, so we're always dressing things up and thinking about the kind of the psychology element of the consumer on the page. What are we putting on whatever screen it might be on? If that question seems a little bit more sensitive than another question like what kind of home is it? If it's a credit type of question, for example, where we know there's going to be drop off, there's going to be a little bit of discomfort, telling you, that type of more personalized or personal information. We're just thinking about how do we reword the question? What other, trust factors can we add? Can we show reviews? Can we show a badge or an emblem of whether it's a as seen on, or even a BBB thing, whatever it might be that adds a little bit of extra comfort to the consumer, because so much of our stuff is first party lead generation. we always have a very clear like pledge. Unlike other mortgage shopping experiences, your information will not be sold. You know, even just that will, because I can say it, this is direct first party lead gen branded with the party who we're doing this for. The only company that's going to get that lead bound by our contract with our customer is the client that we're running these campaigns for, who's using our SaaS product. So, you know, we know how that lead gets delivered. It's instant and it's only to that customer, and they're not selling your data. So, because I can say that and a lead aggregator really can't, I want to make sure that's front and center. And there's a bold statement that says, hey, you know, unlike a lot of these other sites, your information will not get sold. So, a lot of this kind of trust psychological type of things that we do to dress up the steps, the questions, the pages, where the consent might be, where we know things are a little bit more again sensitive, you know, putting a little bit of extra dressing on that step or that screen can go a long way in terms of, again, you get a lead form from, you know, 15% to 33% simply because you worded the question differently and you added a couple extra layers of love to the page, and it makes all the difference. Same traffic, same ad spend, 2 times the leads, because you thought a little bit more about, how do I not just ask questions? How do I, you know, convince people and persuade people and provide comfort as they're giving me some information that they're not comfortable with, knowing that the known experience online that people are scared of is they're going to submit something and then they got to like move out of the country because they've got loan officers coming to their house.